Welcome to the Rebuilt Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Sykes. Each week, I sit down with people who have faced life's toughest challenges and come out victorious, along with mental health experts, coaches, and leaders. We explore powerful stories of transformation, faith, and practical strategies for building a life of purpose and resilience. This is the Rebuilt Podcast. What's up, everybody? My name is Jason, and welcome to the Rebuilt Podcast. On today's episode, I sat down with our guest, Kimberly Evans. Kimberly is the creator of Seismic Transformations. She is a mindset coach, and we talked about what it means to use your mind to its full potential. We talked about how to unlock the positive thinking that everybody wants for success. It is a great episode filled with tons of conversation on how to use your mind the right way. And I'm really excited for you to listen to it. So let's go check it out. Hey, Kimberly, welcome to the Rebuilt Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us.
Sure. Hey, Jason. It is absolute pleasure to be on Rebuilt. I'm super excited.
Awesome. Well, how have you been lately?
I have been excellent. I split my time between Texas and Honolulu, Hawaii, and I cannot complain. This week is a Hawaii week. And I've spent my week just entertaining friends. My oldest daughter's here, and she's learning how to surf.
Nice. Oh, nice.
So I've been just really, really in that zone of just watching her grow and learn something new, and it's been really fun.
Man, spending time in Hawaii sounds so rough.
Yeah, I know. It's life is great. Life is great. I am not even gonna mark myself by saying it's bad or horrible. I have nothing to complain about.
Would do you any good anyway, right?
That's absolutely correct. That's absolutely correct. And, and that's all a part of mindset. I work with clients all the time, and people don't believe that even when you are in a moment of doubt or in moments where things in life don't seem to be working out for you the way that you have intended, it really is a matter of just changing your thought. And changing your thought in that moment and changing how you see the world. And it starts to create this whole new beginning of
That's
how
true.
your next moments will come about.
Yeah, perspective changes reality.
Absolutely.
It's awesome. So you're an entrepreneur. You actually have 3 businesses, correct?
Yes.
And why don't you briefly tell us a little bit about those businesses? What do you do?
Yeah, I call myself a soulpreneur. I know that, there's entrepreneurs out there, and soul as in SOUL. And I was prior, like many of the individuals on your podcast, worked in the corporate sector, right? For many, many years I did. And when I got to the point in my career where I was staring down the nose of another promotion, more territory, although I was covering 24 states, right? There's 50 states. So I had pretty much half of them.
Wow.
I had decided in that moment that I wanted to pursue something greater than just another promotion or another title. And that involved me having to do inner work and not outer work. My degrees, my relationships, all of those things got me to where I needed to be in my corporate career. And I was extremely grateful for that. But I wanted my next increases in life to not come from the things I did on the outside, but from the work that I did on the inside.
That's good. So your business, Seismic Transformations, tell us a little bit about that. That's a very powerful name. Where did you come up with that? What does that mean to you?
It was a part of doing that soul work. I, like many people, had a mentor. Bob Proctor, as many people know from Proctor Gallagher, he was on the hit movie The Secret, but Bob had been around for many, many years prior to that. And he was one of the foremost coaches in his time on mindset. And when I first heard Bob speak, I knew he was someone that I would connect with later in life. And so I did. And I joined his program, became a certified coach, mindset coach under Proctor Gallagher. And in that introspect, in doing that inner work, the name seismic transformations came to me. And I knew it was the right thing because when I immediately went to look it up, to make sure that the URL was available, the domain name, everything
Yeah,
out there was for me. And it was just a part of synchronicity, right? And
that's awesome.
alignment in life.
That's awesome.
And from seismic transformations, as a part of what I work with my clients on when it comes to mindset, is really understanding your gifts and knowing that your
Oh,
corporate career, although you may have been a manager of this or a director of that, you have a tool belt of talents and you don't have to limit yourself when you're creating for yourself and creating on your own. As you know, Jason, you have the podcast and you have other things. You don't have to limit yourself to being just a director of this or manager of that. And so from Seismic Transformations, it gave birth to Beck Evans and Associates, which was a career that was closely associated to my prior corporate career. And from there, it was just grew into another alignment with someone I had known for years, Renelle Evans, whereby we created a partnership, a joint venture, to be able to work with suppliers and entrepreneurs. And just to kind of weave it together, Jason, you probably didn't realize that I did mention my parents were entrepreneurs. And
okay.
so my dad was a contractor, and my mother was also an entrepreneur. They both owned commercial real estate, and for many, many years had their own businesses. And so even throughout my life, again, synchronicity, I've always been somehow, some way tied to entrepreneurs,
Mhm.
either working with them directly and or becoming one on my own.
Wow, that's great. It's like you're destined to follow in their footsteps.
Yeah, yeah, it really is, and again, when we start to really put into perspective our mindset, how we see ourselves, how we think
Mm.
about ourselves in this universe, this vast plane that we live in, what we want to contribute. And looking back on our lives, I know sometimes we will have that judgment, that little voice in our head that says, you know what, you grew up here and you experienced this, and this is the track that you're to be on for your entire life. Or because you weren't so successful in this area and were more successful in a particular given area, well, this is your destiny.
Mm.
And destiny is a tough word. It's a word that a lot of people wrestle with, right? Because when you use the term destiny, it somehow implies that we have no control over what happens in our lives. We
That's
have
good.
no way to implement change within
Oh,
our lives if
that's
we
good.
just give in to this concept of destiny or predestination, I should say.
Hmm. So, yeah, that's really good. What are some other misconceptions that you see in your clients when you're trying to teach them how to, use their minds better, develop those mental patterns?
Yeah, I specifically work with entrepreneurs that are age 40 and older,
Okay.
older people, like I should say mature people like myself. Because when I made my transition, Jason, it was at age 53, right?
Yeah.
And many people would say, at that stage, you're almost out, 10 years later. So, you could collect your Social Security and, take your 401k or pension and retire.
Mm.
And what you are finding, what I have found is that there are so many entrepreneurs out there, especially those who are age, a little older, 40 and older, who have families. They've amassed some investments and some assets. They've done some things, so to speak, but they really know that what they are doing is not fulfilling them. But
Mm.
they've just stayed on this track because they
Yeah.
have been told their paradigm is you you start something, you complete it. You start at this road in corporate, so now you have to see it on out, to your retirement, collect your gold watch, which they don't give you any give a gold for, right? But what people are realizing is that longer you stay in corporate, it actually is the opposite of what it used to be. You
Huh.
actually gain more insecurity because as you become older and as everything from technology, now you're being faced with AI and all of these
Oh.
things threaten or prove out to be risky in your career, downsizing, mergers. People who have thought that they were solid in their careers are finding themselves out on the streets, right? And so to speak, at age 40 and 50 and some older, having to go out and now compete against 20 and 30-year-olds
Man,
And the market.
that is so true. And I never even thought about that until just now. Like even in my
Yeah.
industry, I also do engineering, and I've been doing engineering for 13 years now.
No.
And, I'm almost 40. And we get interns in all the time. And the amount of
Baby
technology
face.
knowledge.
Your 20s.
What's that?
No. I said, you have such a baby face. I
Ah,
thought you were like your 20s.
next week I will be 38.
Okay. All right.
So, but no, we have these interns that come in, they're in their early 20s, and the amount of knowledge that they have in technology, I'm just like, okay, yeah, you could do that. That's fine. But you just gave me a little fright because I'm like, they're actually taking my job. That's crazy. But
Yeah. Yeah. And one of the things that, speaking of mindset, that I work with my clients on is not to fear AI,
uh,
or younger individuals coming in, and to really value themselves at their core, right? Their characteristics, gifts, traits that make them original, unique. And once realized, and you really put it out there on the table, all of the things that you have on your tool belt from your corporate career,
uh,
you realize that you have a lot of value. And that value oftentimes is being underutilized with your
mm,
current situation at the company that you may be working for, because they have a specific goal that they want to reach. And their goal isn't necessarily always tied to your goal in life.
that's good. That's good. So you're talking about like your tool belt.
Mhm.
Um, I've heard you mention that a couple of times. Can you kind of expand on what you mean by that?
Yeah, yeah. As we go through our lives, and even in moments that we constitute as failures or setbacks, oftentimes what we don't realize is that is life teaching us how to value tools that we are picking up along the way. And those tools, oftentimes, Jason, can show up as mental fortitude, resilience, creativity, to be able to work yourself out of a situation or a difficult situation, or you could say a difficult moment in life, whether could be depression, drug abuse. Many people, unfortunately, are victims of things that they had no control over, incest, rape. And then you find that as you go through your life, you look back, if hindsight was 2020, but as a part of our tool belt. And by no means am I saying that these are things that people have brought on themselves.
Sure.
But what I am saying is that as you go through life and these situations take place, some we would characterize as not being so good, and others we would characterize as being great. They are all a part of our tool belt.
Uh,
And in the way that we have responded to life, in its celebrations, in its challenges, are all a part of how we start to collectively build ourselves up emotionally, spiritually, physically, mentally. These are all things that are a part of our tool belt of life that make us us. And when you think about it, what do you do with a tool belt? You take things off of it as needed in order to fix things, to improve things, to enhance things, to build things, to
uh,
create things, right?
yep.
So your own personal tool belt is just that. These are things that we can take from ourselves to enhance our own lives, to build into our own lives, to create for ourselves,
Uh,
to enhance, to beautify. Sometimes the things on our tool belts, you can also use tools to tear things down that no longer serve a purpose.
uh,
You take your tool belt and you tear down that old shack that's in the backyard, right? That has a leak in the roof and is serving its purpose. But while you're tearing down these things that no longer serve their purpose, you also have on that tool belt the tools to take that wood, to take what's left over and build something and create something different, create something new for yourself. So when I refer to tool belt, it is all of those things, right? As many tools as you would see in a Home Depot or a Lowe's, we don't realize that we have those inner tools that we have built up over our time called life.
Yeah, that is such a good way to look at that. Your past experiences, holding on to those, really, you can really help yourself later on just by having that experience you can pull out and
Mhm.
use. Yeah, that's a great analogy. I love it. Talking more about that analogy, I'm sure being a business owner and traveling and doing all of these things that you've done, you've had setbacks in your life. You've had areas where you've had to reach in and grab the right tool. Can you kind of share like some times that you've really had to, you know, dive deep and overcome something, and how you were able to do that?
Oh yeah, again, now that I'm wiser, right? And wisdom doesn't come with age; it just comes from being able to have the proper introspect
Mm,
on situations and circumstances and events that have occurred throughout your life. When I was coming out of undergrad, and I mentioned that my parents were entrepreneurs. Like many kids, and on this planet, my parents went through a divorce, right? I went
mm,
through a period of seeing my family structure, being depleted, and changes happening all around me that I had no control over. And so even going from that situation of seeing my parents divorce and realizing that and that moment, your parents are your heroes, that they're not
mm,
perfect people. And then from there, I went into the military. And while I was actually in the military at 19, my father passed away. And I got notice while I was actually stationed in Germany. I go all the way back to the first Gulf War, but when I was stationed in Germany, I got a message that my father had went into the VA hospital for a routine, type operation, and didn't make it. And so knowing that, number one, having to work my way through that from a military perspective, my mother at that time, I'm the youngest of four siblings. I knew that I had to be able to at least put myself in a position where I would no longer be a burden on my mother. So even coming out of the military, going into graduate school, I was one of those students who picked up those little applications all around the campus that said credit card, just fill this out and you can, get $500 here or $1,000 there. So I was just walking around picking them up, filling them out, right? And so, needless to say, I got myself into a lot of debt issues coming through undergrad that I had to, recover from, which wasn't a smart thing. But I worked myself out of that, became a very responsible person when it came to that, was able to buy my first home and car and things of that nature. But even as I was going through graduate school, there were several things that I wanted to be and become, and one of which was going through law school, right? But I couldn't pass the freaking exams to even get accepted to law school. Took them like 3 times, and I realized at that moment, just in disappointment and just going throughout my life, that it wasn't meant for me to go in that direction. So oftentimes when we have things that happen to us that we feel very strongly about, I mean, of course, in that moment, I was like, oh my goodness, I'm gonna end up being some loser in life. I can't even get through law school. I went to the military, made all these sacrifices to be able to finish school, and now I can't even, get myself going career wise. But it turns out that that wasn't for me. It redirected me towards banking and finance, where I had a wonderful career in that area, wonderful experiences that led to this point in my life. And I can just go back through even, my own personal divorce, right? After,
mm.
watching my parents go through a divorce. We aren't perfect beings. We don't live, these perfect straight lives where you start, on the 1 yard line and finish on the 100 yard line, and everything in between is perfect.
Yeah. Well, man, so many things I want to say over that story. First off, thank you for sharing. Really appreciate that. I didn't know that you were in the military.
Yeah.
What branch did you serve?
Army.
Army. Well, thank you for your service. What kind of cool things did you do? You said you were in Germany.
Yeah, I was actually stationed in from my basic training, for those who are out there military, from basic training to being shipped off during Desert Storm, Desert Shield, being rerouted to Germany, and spent a couple of years in Europe, which was a great
Wow.
experience.
Yeah.
Getting to go all over Europe. As a young person, also while serving in the military when our country needed us,
Yeah.
and just being able to develop, again, just a tool belt of skills.
Yep.
One of the things that I truly loved about being in the military was how they could take a huge process of of, just deploying people all around the world, defending our country, and just breaking it down into simple, simple steps that anyone
Mm,
can follow. And I took that, believe it or not, which is why I believe that, soldiers are so effective in the corporate setting and other settings as they transition through life, because we can simplify anything. You give us a process and a project, whereas other people, they add 150 steps. We can break that baby down into 10 steps and, and still, make it happen.
yeah, that's good. One of my favorite authors is he's a Navy SEAL. His name's Mark Divine, if you've ever heard of him. And he's got a really good book called The Unbeatable Mind. And he talks about that, how, as a SEAL captain, it's like he just needs the facts, and then it's a list from there. And
Yeah.
I mean, you could probably agree with me on it really is that simple sometimes. Your mind
Mhm.
just needs the facts, what you need to do, and then make it happen.
Yeah. And a lot of people aren't successful, in,
Yeah.
in that type of setting, for the simple fact that it is mindset. And I can say in a nutshell, one of the things that really helped me to just breeze through basic training in military. Prior to that, I was an athlete. I played, basketball, ran track. So I already went into my military situation with a very strict mindset. And my dad was, the type of person who always had to have order. He was a veteran himself.
Mm,
But again, not everyone makes it through that situation because they just, don't have the mindset around it. And mindset, whether you are in military, whether you are in corporate, whether you are an entrepreneur, Jason, it's everything. It
yeah,
shapes your belief system,
yeah,
right? And beliefs are just simply thoughts that we have over and over again. And oftentimes what we don't understand or what we don't recognize are that the beliefs and thoughts that we have are actually not our original beliefs and thoughts. 99% of everything that you have learned emotionally in regards to how you think about yourself and oftentimes how you think about the world that's around you was shaped between birth and age 8, right?
yeah.
And this has been scientifically proved. And so as you start to go through your life, we don't realize that we are living this mechanical type life based upon religious beliefs and environmental beliefs, family beliefs that have been given to us. Oftentimes we don't get to decide until you're much, much later in life what your religion will be, what your language, your first language will be, right? What school you were attend, what neighborhood you were live in. These are all things that are part of our development that were given to us. And it's a really, really freeing experience when you have the opportunity to really sit down and just ask yourself this one question. Where do the beliefs that I have come from? Where do they come from? And of course, we have thousands of beliefs, but it's an exercise that I have all of my clients go through. And it's everything. I experience everything from people crying, to absolute joy. But oftentimes it's not a pleasant experience for people when they really start to back into, where did my belief system come from? When did I start to believe that money doesn't grow on trees, right? Or all of these things that we hear, or that I have to work twice as hard as someone to get to where I need to be, or that, these wealthy people over here are evil. The only way
Mm,
that they got their money is they must stole it from someone, or maybe they're doing something illegal like selling drugs, or and we have just this set of beliefs that we pick up from things that have been around us, and it gets us to a point that even as adults we are in such a frenzy in life, and it truly determines the results that we have in life. And what are beliefs are just thoughts that we have over and over again that we have accepted as a truth.
yeah.
And
That's
just because you have a thought, that doesn't mean that that thought is true.
that's right.
You may have been told you'll never amount to nothing. Oh, you're just like your father. You're going to end up like your father. Oh, you're just like your mother. You're going to be just like your mother, right? And these are just thoughts that play in our heads over and over again as we go through life. And you will hear the terms, empowering beliefs, disempowering beliefs. And I don't necessarily like to focus on whether they're empowering or disempowering. I like to focus on, are you in your life currently where you desire to be? Because one man's treasure could be a Ford F-150 truck and a double wide trailer, right? And
Uh-huh.
another man's treasure could be a beachfront condo in Honolulu, Hawaii. So you don't really get to decide what someone else's treasure is. But what I do ask individuals is, are you where you want to be in your life? In this given moment, in this present now, are you where you want to be? And the answer is either yes, no, or I don't know, or maybe, right? And we are where we are because of the thoughts that we have, the beliefs that we have held, and our thoughts and beliefs control our actions, and our actions are the results that you see in front of you. Every day they're staring you in the face.
Yeah, that's very well put. So following that premise, you talk to someone who doesn't know or they aren't where they want to be, and we've developed that, it's the mindset. How do
Yeah.
you start to help them to change that mindset when they have no idea how to even begin?
Yeah, great question. And the mind is something most of us, if not all of us, we've never seen our mind, right? So it's hard to talk to someone about changing something that's abstract. In our mind, there aren't pictures, right? For
Right.
as far as we know, there's synaptics and all of these things that they tell us, the frontal lobe, your cerebellum, your pineal gland, all of these things that make up our brain. But your brain is not your mind. And so where does all of the things that's in your mind come from? And it's a very difficult conversation to have with people. You have the scientists who will say one thing, the psychologists will say one thing, the physicists will say another thing, and everyone is kind of at odds. But we do know that, at least into this point of our scientific study, that our mind is divided into two areas, our conscious mind and our subconscious mind. And so when we think in terms of the mind, I love my mentor, Bob Proctor, who he has this little stick person, right? That he draws. And I do mean as a stick person with a big head at the top, a little body, a torso, two little stick arms and two stick feet. And at the top of the head, it's divided in the middle, your conscious mind and your subconscious mind. And then we have our body. And we ask, well, what's in the subconscious mind? Well, the subconscious mind are those things that we do every day that we don't even really know why we do them or can explain how they happen, but it happens because subconsciously you don't have to tell yourself to breathe. You just do.
Yeah.
Once you learn to walk, you don't have to remind yourself every morning to walk. You get up out of bed, you put one foot in front of the other, and you get to going. Driving, you get in your car now, you know how to start it up, drive. These are all things that are in our subconscious mind. That is the program that is driving us on a day-to-day basis through our mechanical actions. And then we have the conscious mind. The conscious mind is you can think of it as your outside mind. That is the mind that is aware that it's cold today, or it's warm today, or you're not feeling so great today. You may be feeling a little blue. That's the part of your mind that is constantly chattering and talking to you, right? It's telling you everything from get up, go to bed, you need coffee, you don't do this, do that, right? And then we know from the conscious mind to the subconscious mind, we have this thing that's called our body. And so when we're talking to people, and when I talk to people about changing their thoughts, and their thoughts change their habits, and their habits change their beliefs, and their beliefs change their results, I often start with just this picture of the mind, the conscious mind, subconscious mind, and the body. And then we start to go through this process of asking just fair questions. Are you where you want to be in life? If the answer is yes, logical next question is there anything that you would like to improve? Most people will say, yeah, I would like to be able to work out more. I would like to lose weight, or, whatever that improvement may be. And so then you start to get them to understand, well, why don't you work out more? Is it because you don't have time? Of course you have time, because you don't work or sleep 24 hours a day. If you were to set aside 30 minutes for yourself and work out at least once a day, 5 days a week, what's preventing you from doing that? And then most people will say, well, I don't know, or it's just
Yes.
because I don't want to, right? But
Yes.
most often it's because they don't know. They don't know why they're not getting up and working out 5 days a week, although they have said this is something that they know can improve their health, improve their
Right.
lives. And so what happens is, with working with individuals, we get them to understand that you have subconsciously programmed yourself to quit, to
Mm,
fail yourself,
that's good.
because your conscious mind is creating excuses. Oh, you woke up 15 minutes late, so there's no way that you can go and work out. Oh, today it's raining, so there's no way that you can go
Yeah.
for a walk. Oh, today it's too cold, so you can't go for a walk. Oh, today it's too hot, so you can't go for a walk, right? And so what we start to teach individuals is how to quiet their conscious mind. Your conscious mind is just there to keep you and protect you, but it's really oftentimes not your best friend or your best advocate. It is that part of your body that goes all the way back to your innate being of protection. And we teach people how to not live by their conscious mind, but to start living from their subconscious mind, that programming your habits to the point where you just subconsciously get up every morning and go and work out no matter what. And how do you do that? Just like anything else in life, you do not get rid of your other beliefs that say it's too hot, you're too cold, or whatever it may be. Your conscious mind is always there, but you can learn to begin to quiet your conscious mind.
Yeah, that's great. And you actually hit on one of my favorite subjects, and what I want to talk to you about next is habits. Um,
Yeah.
I absolutely love habitual thinking. I think that it is one of the cores of change and makes you who you are. And I mean, you are what you do, and what you do programs who you are. So
Yeah.
it's all kind of connected. So what are some really good daily habits or thought exercises that you personally like to practice that keeps you in the right headspace?
Yeah. You have across the board, you have people who understood from the very beginning that your energy goes wherever you focus. Whatever your focus is on is where your energy goes. And so for many people, that pattern of habitual thinking can come through meditation. For many people, it comes through daily meditation, daily prayer. For many people, it comes through daily routines of quiet time, daily routines of visualization. And for some people, if they have the time, they put them all together,
Yeah.
right? But the point of it is that you have to be able to shift your focus and your energy and your values. Because if you don't start to change your habits, your habitual things that you do, you will never be able to change your actions.
Mhm.
And if you're not changing your actions, you're not going to change your results. And so it would be great if there were a pill or a shot that people could just take and they would just automatically start doing the right things or the best things
Yeah.
for themselves, right? But that's not the case. There is work required, and that work has to come through quieting that conscious mind. You have to teach it that it is not the boss of you, and that you take that inner responsibility to be responsible for yourself. And so what does that mean? Jason, that means you have to do some work. And for me personally, I work in the mornings before I get up, and I also work at night before I go to bed, and sometimes in the middle of the night. I.e., when I get up in the mornings, I have these moments where nothing else can happen. My phone is on silent. My family knows not to bother me, because that is the point in my life that I've decided that this is where I am going to do my visioning, my meditation, my reading, even if you're reading scripture from the Bible, right?
Yeah.
These are the moments and the times that you must be able to take before the world gets a hold of you and starts working on that conscious mind of yours, right?
Yeah.
Telling you that you don't have time. You have to be able to take that time. And there's no way that I know of, when you study the most successful people in the world, whether they are world-class athletes or whether they are the most successful entrepreneurs, they will all tell you that they have a pattern of habitual time that they take to either pray, to meditate, to work on their visualization, to just to quiet their mind and focus in on something, whether it's just a circle on a wall, but you will not be able to master your body until you've learned to master your mind.
That's so true. Well said. I love it. Awesome.
Yeah,
Okay, fun question for you.
sure.
So, obviously, you live in a fun place. Like I said, I've never been to Hawaii. I really want to go there. I love that you live there. So, you're going to have to, I'm going to live vicariously through you here. What are some of your favorite things to do in Hawaii that are unique to the islands?
Each island, although they're about 30 minutes apart, by plane, they used to have a ferry before COVID that went in between the
Mm.
islands. They no longer have a ferry, so
Oh,
you have to fly. But they have several airlines here that take frequent flights back and forth from the islands. They're all so different, climate wise. Again, even though they're 30 minutes apart, when it comes to the inhabitants, I'm in Oahu, which is the most populated of the islands. um, what I what I find is so unique about these islands is that they are a part of the United States, but yet at the same time, you're like in a different world when you are here, right? Uh, you have still just a lot of the natural land that's here. Many of the indigenous Hawaiians are still present. Here on the islands, they've maintained a lot of their culture, but it is just truly when it comes to the energy, and I know there's energy zones all over the place, but you really truly have to embody the island life here. Nothing really moves fast, although they have the infrastructure, they have everything that's, oh, as they call it on the mainland, and the bigger cities. But you truly have to appreciate slowing down, taking the time to have that quiet time. It is almost an island culture to value family,
oh.
and beliefs in your religions over work. Believe it or not, I didn't think any such place
Yeah.
existed in America. But that is absolutely the culture here, and it is championed throughout the islands, even when it comes to the time that businesses open, the amount of time that they stay open when they close. You really are put in a position where you have to decide that you are going to accept joy and peace and the beauty of this place above all things, because that's just the way the island manages itself. It is the energy of this place. And I understand why so many people have the opportunity to move here. They don't want to leave. Or like myself, maintain a home on the mainland because absolutely love don't not paying taxes in Texas. So I spend the majority of my time, at least 51% of my time, in the state of Texas. But that other percentage of time, I'm absolutely here in Hawaii.
Awesome. So, do you surf or anything like that? What about some
You know,
activities?
Yeah, I actually live across from a beach, right? I'm not bragging or anything. I literally walk outside of my front door, here at my condos, and I cross the street into this beautiful park. And a few feet from the park is a beautiful, beautiful beach, that is not on the tourist side.
Oh,
And
nice.
so
Those are the
really,
best.
yeah, it's absolutely the best. No surfing, no surfing. But I absolutely love it. Every day, in the mornings, I go for a walk. In the evenings, I have the
Mm.
most beautiful picturesque as sunset. You just fall in love with this place. I don't care if you look north, south, east, or west. The views are just spectacular.
Oh man, you got me there.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
a little
it's true.
jealous.
Man, it's true. Right, so I'm telling everybody, yeah, don't come. It's expensive.
Yeah.
Stay stay away. Don't come over here. It's very, you have to have a really different mindset to exist over here. It's not New York.
That's great. Okay, well, last question for you, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah.
So I'm a pretty big reader. I think you're a reader as
Mhm.
well. What are you currently reading, and what would be a good recommendation for someone who wants to understand their mind a little bit better?
You know, there are some really great authors out there. I'm actually rereading a set of books by Dr. Joe Dispenza. he has a whole network of podcasts as well and specials on rewiring your brain. And he has a number of books that are focused on you unbecoming your old self and becoming your new self by going through the process of understanding what science calls neuroplasticity, right? The process of going through he has a wonderful series that's called Rewired. And I recommend Dr. Joe Dispenza and his books and his podcasts and his shows to all of my clients. As just a regular guy, a regular dude, he's a chiropractor and he's went on, to get other degrees. But he has spent years studying the mind. He himself was involved in a horrible, horrible accident whereby he could not walk. He had to reteach himself, just the basics and mechanics of walking and things that we take for granted every day. And so he's been there, done that. And he's also went through that inner work and that spiritual journey to understand that we are not our minds. We are not our bodies. We have a body. We never say, am hand, I am my foot. We say, I have a hand. I have a foot. We are very well aware as spiritual beings that we're not these bodies. And we are very well aware of the fact that we are not our minds. And so when we really start to come into ourselves and do that inner work and realize that we are spiritual beings who have decided to incarnate into these physical bodies, you start to put things into proper perspective. Who is the boss of you? You are the boss of you. Your higher self, your spiritual self, your soul, hence being a soulpreneur. That is first and foremost. The physical world that we live in takes a back seat to what we believe and how we think of ourselves. And I love Joe Dispenza. There's a wonderful books out there in regards to people who may be seeing themselves as victims and dealing with shame. Brene Brown, I love her books. Oftentimes people, oh, by the way, I have a story about how I got trapped on a plane with Brene Brown coming from Dallas to Houston, a 45-minute flight that ended up being almost 5 hours because we were circling around a storm. But I was able to sit right next to her. And speaking of mindset and beliefs, as someone who was told that she would ruin her career if as a professor she studied something as ambiguous as shame, and it wasn't, you can't really study, scientists and PhDs like to study things, physical things that they can see. But she went on to prove them all wrong, right? That it was something that people needed to hear and understand how we think about ourselves from our conscious mind to our subconscious mind and the beliefs that we have taken on throughout our lives. That we don't have to carry those forward. And so Brene Brown, from a more of a holistic looking at mindset and understanding how many of the things throughout our lives that were in place that we thought shamed us. I didn't come from a rich family. I may have done certain things to myself or my body or other things that other people cast judgment on me for. But all of these are things that go back to Jason of what I said before. Where do your beliefs come from? Mm-hmm. How did they get there? Who gave them to you? Why have you accepted them? And sometimes why do we reinforce them throughout our lives? So Brene Brown and Dr. Joe Dispenza, you put those two together, I think would be some powerful reading.
Well, thank you for the recommendations. If somebody wants to get a hold of you, check out your program, where do they go?
Hey, you can find me very easily, book an appointment with me, go to my website, which is seismictransformations.com. And believe it or not, Jason, the building that I live in, when you start to operate from your inner self, your spiritual self, you start to notice things called synchronicity throughout your life. And believe it or not, in the building that I live in, out of all the buildings in Hawaii, there is a button on the elevator that actually spells out the word seismic. The button, you can't push it. It does nothing. When I asked the manager of the building why was the button even there, they said they have no idea. It's been there since they've been the manager of this building for over 20 years. But wow. My company, Seismic Transformations, and out of all the buildings that I can live in, there is a button and there's nothing random about it. Wow. It actually spells out seismic.
That's awesome. Well,
Yeah.
I'll put your website in the comments as well. So,
Sure.
Kimberly, thank you so much for this time. I really appreciate it. That was very powerful. Um, Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Yes. All right. Well, you have a great evening.
Thank you so much, Jason.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for listening today. I hope you enjoyed today's guest. And I just wanted to say that if this has made you think, if this has sparked something in you, maybe about your purpose or your relationship with God, I just want to encourage you to not let that moment pass. If you're ready to take that next step and connect with me personally, you can reach out to me through my email, which is jason@rebuiltlifecoach.com, or you can go to my website at www.rebuiltlifecoach.com. And if you're serious about building a stronger, faith-driven life, please go check out that program. Thank you for listening, and as always, keep walking in purpose and growing in faith. I'll catch you next time.